Yo, 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 what is up, everybody? Chris here from Big Sports News, Axe Rotation, however the flip you know me on these interwebs. And today I'm going to be bringing you guys a quick preview of what to expect going into week 2 of stage 1 of the CDL 2026 season. Without further ado, let's get right into it. Of course, we'll be kicking things off with Slasher, Nero, and Co. taking on the Riyadh Falcons. As you guys can see, I think it'll be a 3-2 in favor of the Riyadh Falcons. I just started recording this a second ago and realized that I was just babbling. So here we go again. I think the reason why the Riyadh Falcons win this one is just because Celium, Pred, Kismet, and Exit, they all looked very, very serviceable in their matchup against LA Thieves. It went super down to the wire. If you missed the recap of that, be sure to go check it out. That was the video uploaded right before this one. Also, there are highlights from that match, so be sure to go check those out as well. They are also on the channel. And yeah, that's why I think the Riyadh Falcons get it done in 5. Conversely, I think that the Boston Breach, I think that they will lose 3-1 to G2 Minnesota. G2 has been looking phenomenal. Boston has also been looking phenomenal. I'm going to push this one to a game 5. I feel like Boston with Nasty, they are a lot more decisive and just a lot more cohesive than they were last year. And I feel like that's going to translate to way more wins this year and definitely some potential top 4 placements. So I think G2 is a little bit stronger at the moment. And that's why I have them winning this 3-2. Hopefully this ages like wine. Now, looking at our last match of the day, excuse me, we have the battle for Canada. We have the Toronto Koi Boys taking on the Vancouver Surge. And unlike last year, I really don't see them trading that much in this season series just because of the personnel. Abe, of course, who else on the team? Lunars, Legend, and Gwen. Yeah, I mean, those 4, they're going to have to figure out how to find their footing. And maybe a roster change comes in. So I don't know how good Vancouver will be throughout the season, but I do know Toronto Koi has looked phenomenal thus far. Now, speaking of teams that have looked phenomenal thus far, we have the Battle of LA. This should be the Not Like Us Bowl. Yeah, let's call it the Not Like Us Bowl. Even though Gentlemates are now in Paris, we'll still call it the Not Like Us Bowl because this is the LA Gorillas team. So yeah, we're going to have the battle for. Well, I guess it's not the Not Like Us Bowl anymore because they're from Paris. But anyways, I digress. I think that the LA Thieves will take this one. They look to be the team that we all expect them to be. It took a couple weeks to get the rust off of Kenny, but now that Kenny's looking good, Hydra's been a little bit behind, but I mean, it's Hydra. Like, that's just chalked up to a bad week. Maybe he had a cold or some shit. Like, it's Hydra. He's going to get back. So, I think it'll be let's call it a 3-2. Gentlemates are really good in HP, and the Thieves, they're solid in HP, but I really favor their S&D and their overload in comparison to Gentlemates. So I think it'll be a 3-2. I feel like they probably split HPs and Thieves take the S&Ds. Yeah, Gentlemates taking the overload kind of makes sense, right? They obviously got belted by Faze, but they have looked pretty decent on the mode overall. So I think against a team like Thieves, they'll probably know that they're not going to necessarily beat them in hardpoint as consistently. But who knows? I mean, Gentlemate's been looking phenomenal. This team comp is really good. And Envoy and Ghosty playing their former team, that definitely lends itself to a revenge game or a revenge storyline, right? Actually, you know what? Fuck it. We'll back the Gentlemates. They're having a good year. They just lost to FaZe. I'm not going to say that they go 0-2. Maybe the stage is terribly like milk, but yeah, that's what I'm going to say. Now, in terms of Optic Texas taking on the Miami Heretics, based on what I've seen from Optic, I don't see why this wouldn't be a 3-0. Yeah, I mean, even though they had a 3-1 last week, they played a really good G2 team to get that 3-1. G2 is a top 5 team in my mind, so them losing a map to them is really not that big of a deal, and it doesn't change my perspective that Miami is conversely a much worse team than G2, respectfully, at the current moment. Trakes was not able to be here in the U.S. to play for like the first few weeks of the game, so that kind of chalked everything at the Monster Invitational. And if you think about it, Miami's only been practicing for probably about 1 to 2 weeks with their full roster. They were having visa issues with Trakes, I believe. So yeah, they had to play with Eric Boom and stuff. It was chaotic. So that's why I have Optic getting a 3-0 here. I feel like there's more ahead right now, and Heretics have a lot of catching up to do, especially after replacing Real for Trakes. I mean, Trakes is an amazing player, do not get me wrong, but when you have a new player enter the fold, you have a lot to figure out, right? So looking at the Cloud9 New York boys, they will be taking on the Vancouver Surge. I expect them to get their first dub of the weekend here. I think it'll probably be a pretty close series, considering Vancouver will likely be playing pretty aggressively to get better at the game. Legend is not bad. I mean, he's not bad. People think he's bad or like he's going to get dropped immediately. He's not bad. He just needs time to settle in. I think the GMs, the other players, and the coaches understand that as well. And also, Vancouver does not have a lot of money to commit to their roster, as we saw with the roster that they signed, right? These all look like minimum contracts for the most part. Gwyn probably getting above a minimum slightly, but yeah, it's pretty clear that they wanted to have one really good serviceable player and then three players who are up and coming amateurs who could get on a sweetheart deal and really just build a pretty serviceable team around. Similar to what they did last year, right? I mean, Nasty was not a high salaried contract player, you would imagine. Same with 04 and Abuza, who they had retained from the previous season. And then you had Neptune in midseason, who was a Challengers pickup. I think Surge are just trying to bank on the budget teams, oftentimes being better than the super teams, right? They've done it multiple times in the CDL. That's really part of their identity. Pred and Sib. I mean, even when they've had money, they've consistently gone for these upset heavy rookie stacked teams, right? So they like to grow their talent. I respect this Vancouver Surge for having a slew of homegrown talent, right? Same can be said with the C9 side, with, of course, Mac Melts. But yeah, I digress. So let's look at the Sunday matches, the last matches of the weekend. We have Boston Breeze taking on the Riyadh Falcons in a battle of the Green Boys. This is a rough one. Let's see what the community's thinking so far. So the community's favoring Boston. Kismet, Exnid, Cell, and Pred. I'm gonna like these guys to go 2-0 this weekend in 2 game fives. Honestly, what I saw from them playing the Thieves and just them having the 2023 CDL World Champs MVP as well as the 2022 MVP in Celium, right? Yeah, I just feel pretty good about this Faze team winning this. I'm sorry, Faze. Wow, Freudian slip. This Falcons team winning this. So that's why I'll say it's a 3-2 in favor of the Riyadh Falcons, and that's where we'll call it. Now, in our next matchup, we have the C9 boys taking on the Miami Heretics. I think C9 gets it done. I'm going to say it's a 3-2. Well, I'm not going to say it's a 3-2 because Miami's S&D look phenomenal, but I just like what I've seen from C9 in their respawn thus far. That's why I like them to win this one. Miami, they are less practiced, so I'm going to go against the spread here, right? I'm going to go against the majority of the community and lock in with my boy Afro and my boy Mac. So, yeah, I think it'll be a 3-1 in favor of C9. And then in our last matchup of the weekend, we have an absolute bangerini, ladies and gents. We have FaZe Vegas taking on the Toronto Koi Boys. And honestly, based on what I saw from FaZe Vegas last week, they look to be the best 2-3-5 team in the game, taking down a very, very strong pair of Gentlemates who usually are not outclassed in any of the modes by teams they should be beating, right? You guys know I thought FaZe would lose last week, but they outclassed Gentlemates in the game 5, as well as the game 2 and the game 3. So, with that being said, I feel like FaZe being that well practiced for those modes will give them a very, very strong edge in this series. And that's why I think they get it done in 5. I think it'll be a map 5. Barn burner. I think it's going to be a great game. And that's how I think the weekend ends. So, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope you have a great morning, noon, or night. If you miss any of the matches this weekend, I will be doing highlights as I did last week and the week before that. So, yeah, highlights are back. Thank you guys for all the love you've shown on the channel. We did 12,000 views this weekend, which is amazing for me. So thank you guys so much. Really, really appreciate all the love and support lately. You guys have got me like 20,000 views in the last like 3 weeks. And yeah, I'm fucking with y'all and y'all fucking with me. So appreciate it. Hope you guys have a great morning, noon, or night. Like I said before, once again, this is Chris Bakes versus X Rotation. However, flipping, you know, is in the webs, and I'm signing out. Peace.